Hi class. Today's topic is about child sex tourism, and I'm sorry I'm not really comfortable talking about it. But to deal with this bad situation or this bad disease in the society, in order to stop it, we should understand how this thing works, what's the background of it, what government is doing or what other governments are doing, what's our responsibility as a citizen, what other business are doing. So we must understand all these facts in order to fight against this bad disease in the society. So for the background, child sex tourism. I will use CST instead of child sex tourism in this entire talk, which is commonly defined as the sexual exploitation of children by a person who travel from their home district to other places in order to have a sexual contact with the children. Now, traveling to exploit children does not necessarily imply crossing into another country, because domestic travelers can also sexually exploit children in their own. So not only are today's travel and tourism industries larger than in previous decades, but the world and its people are increasingly interconnected. So people travel to other countries for leisure or business purposes and for short or extended periods of time. So it's also becoming easier to take up a residence outside of the countries of one nation. So CST is a steadily increasing problem. One of the unfortunate side effects of growing travel infrastructure are the opportunities that are afforded to tourists who are seeking sexual contact with children. These individuals take advantage of the access to vulnerable children, which are afforded to them by the tour operators or accommodations or leisure venues and other tourism related establishments. They use the financial advantage they hold over local communities to exploit local children sexually. So as a result, never before has the need for action against the child sex tourism been more pressing. Tackling the issue of CST is not the responsibility of a single sector or stakeholder. In fact, many different actors must join hand in order to construct an effective front line against child sex tourism. So travel and accommodation service provider can play a direct role towards preventing CST. Non-governmental organizations, or we call them NGOs, and child rights agencies that focus on children's rights, welfare, and safety must be a definition, must, by definition, be actively involved in the fight against the CST. Government, whose primary function is to ensure the well-being of citizens, must be actively involved as well. This means that all stakeholders must learn how to cooperate effectively to prevent CST. So each year, if you exactly define, each year over 1 million children are exploited in the global commercial sex trade. The sexual exploitation of children has devastating consequences, which may include long-lasting physical and psychological traumas, diseases including HIV, and drug addictions, unwanted pregnancy, and possibly death, unfortunately. And the crime is typically fueled by weak law enforcement, or the corruption, the internet, or the power. So the entire global, over the last 5 years, there has been an increase in the prosecution of the CST offense. More than 32 countries, as per my research, they are taking part together to fight against it. If we see and if we find out about it somewhere close to us, something happening, we can report it, to call the, I don't know, Immigration Custom Enforcement tip line, or a local American embassy if we are traveling, or law enforcement. As a citizen, what can we do? Because I understand and I believe the awareness is the key to deal with it. As a citizen, we need to stay informed and support the efforts of authorities in the tourism industry. Report to authorities abroad or even to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Immigration and Customs Enforcement if we suspect children are being commercially sexually exploited in a tourism destination. Be aware that any U.S. citizen or permanent legal resident arrested in a foreign country for abusing these minors may be subject to return to U.S. and if convicted, they can face up to 30 years of imprisonment. We need to support the efforts of NGOs, which are like a non-governmental organization, working to protect children from commercial sexual exploitation. And if we think what business can do, so travel, tourism, and hospitality companies, they can sign the code of conduct to protect children from sexual exploitation in travel and tourism, which requires them to implement these following measures, which I'm going to talk about, probably not more due to the time constraint, but mainly that they need to establish a corporate ethical policies. They need to place some kind of clauses in the contract with the suppliers. They need to report annually on their progress. They need to train tourism personnel, and they need to provide information to travelers. They need to provide information to local key person at travel destination. So we covered about what can we do as a citizen and what business can do. So at the end, I think I'll talk about what government can do. They can enhance research and coordination. So as a student, as a teacher, we can research the extent and the nature of the problem. We can draft an action plan for addressing CST, or we can designate a government point of contact. And we can also, encourage the travel industry to sign the code of conduct, which we just covered about it. And also the government, they can increase the punishment for offenders, which can be the lesson for other people, for the rest of people. Cooperate with the foreign government, prosecute the crime to the fullest extent possible. And to the victim, those poor children, the government should provide some kind of shelters, counseling, medical and legal. So it's a really long topic and long discussion, and it really hurts when we think, even imagine about these things happening to the children. So I'll conclude with this thing that all these stakeholders must learn how to cooperate effectively, to prevent child sex tourism. So in this regard, the code of conduct for the prosecution of children from sexual exploitation in the travel and tourism, it has been developed to facilitate the collaboration between particularly the tourism industry and NGOs. Guys, if children everywhere are to have the opportunity to grow up in a world free of sexual exploitation, joining hands and taking action against a CST, I would say it's not a choice, it's the necessity. Thank you so much.